everyone, Michael Zupan here with Byte-Size Impressions, and today I thought I'd do a little brief tour of my retro gaming room that I have in my house. So let's head on inside. That's my obvious setup there, CRT television set. But we'll come back around to that stuff in a minute. I'm just going to show you some of the wall art. It's very basic. Obviously, it's Legend of Zelda. You can recognize Link there. And it's a small room, but I do have the decals situated all over the room. And also, when you first walk in on the right, I have this wall scroll. Amazing artwork. A collage featuring characters and monsters from pretty much all of the Legend of Zelda games that were released up until its 25th anniversary. It is a fantastic piece of work. And we're back around to the to the good stuff. So the CRT here, for anybody who's looking to get into retro gaming, take it from me. It's so much better to play these games on a CRT. You can play them on an HD TV, but man, it really does not look that great. I dealt with it for a while, and I was like, I can't take anymore. But how do you get a CRT? Well, obviously, you're going to have to go lug one from somewhere, but you can just ask friends and family members. I got this TV for free from my grandparents, who were no longer using it. I even asked on Facebook, though, hey, anybody got a CRT out there that they're not using? And I had a couple of friends who were like, yeah, I've got two of them, you know, and they were willing to give me theirs, too. So just ask around. You don't have to spend money. And if you don't really know anybody who still has one lingering around, you can always go to a local Salvation Army, Goodwill, something like that. You can always find one there for cheap. So let's move on to the good stuff. You're not seeing double. My goal here was to have two of all the old retro consoles that I was serious about owning. And the reason for that is because in case one ever fails, I always want to have a backup. It's really foolish in my mind for me to invest all this money in games because some of them are quite expensive nowadays. Okay? Need I say Conker's Bad Fur Day on the N64, that goes for around $80 on average. Earthbound can go for like $150 if not more. Okay? So games like that, if you're going to spend that kind of money to have and to play these games, you may as well ensure that you've always got a backup. It may seem foolish to some of you. It makes sense to me, especially since the consoles aren't really like an arm and a leg anymore nowadays. So as you'll see, original Super Nintendos and Nintendos. The Super Nintendos are still gray. The original Nintendos just below them are not yellowed all that much, so they look pretty fantastic. And they've got the original controllers because I will not go third-party. I've tried using third-party controllers a lot, and they just do not live up to even the first-party controllers, which have gone under years of use and abuse. They still hold up so incredibly well. Down here, those are my N64s. And really, getting an N64 was the first step towards addicting myself again to having retro gaming consoles. I had my friend, my buddy, Garrett Golden from this website who appears on the podcasts with us. I was just like, yeah, I'm looking to get into retro games. I can't play anything on the N64. Right now, and I'd love to be able to play that and the Zelda games. And he's like, oh, seriously? You don't have an N64 or those Zelda games? I'll just send them to you. So he did. So one of those N64s are the ones, is the one that he sent me. The other one I picked up myself. And as far as the GameCubes, that blue one, bluish purplish one there on the right, is one that I paid for myself. The other one, the black one, my friend, he works at a local town dump. And he's at the intake station, so people drive up and they drop stuff off that they can't just throw out with their trash to him. And sometimes they drop off perfectly good things. That GameCube being a perfectly good example. The thing is clean, it looks immaculate, and it runs immaculately, and it had two controllers with it and all the cords that it needed and everything. So that was free, and it was a hell of a find. So I have to thank my buddy Mike for that as well. Moving down here on the bottom shelf of this, these are Sega Genesises with an original controller up top. The left one, the smaller one, the thinner one I should say, is the Model 2. The one on the right is the Model 1. A later iteration of the Model 1 I should say though. And then moving down onto this bottom shelf here, well inside the cabinet I should say, this is where I keep my spare controllers, power cords. And you can see a Nintendo Zapper back there. There's a couple of microfiber cloths. Anyway, moving along. This little bookshelf here, and it is pretty little, is where I keep my a majority of my retro games and stuff, amongst other things. Up top I have, for decoration, on the left-hand side, this green book is the Legend of Zelda Hyrule Historia book. Up top is actually a box with 10 books in it. It is the manga collection of The Legend of Zelda. And this box here, this behemoth, it's very heavy. And that's because inside it has multiple books, hardcover books, by Prima Strategy Guides for a variety of different Zelda games. Most of them look like this. That hardcover fashion. They're all different colors for the different games and everything. The reason why Majora's Mask is outside the box is because it's not included in this box. This was for the Majora's Mask Nintendo 3DS release. And this box came out before that game came out. So I had to buy this other book to sort of complete the collection, I felt. Moving on down to the shelving here. Games and stuff. So for Nintendo, I've got Bubble Bobble, Castlevania, Contra, DuckTales, Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, Metroid, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and the Super Mario Bros. / Duck Hunt cartridge. Right up front here with the Super Nintendo stuff, my only complete in-box game, really, for the Super Nintendo at least anyway, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, personal fave. And moving right along, we got Aladdin, Beavis and Butthead, Contra 3, Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong Country 2, Earthbound, Final Fantasy 3, Final Fight, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, Castlevania 4, Super Mario All-Stars, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario RPG, Super Metroid, The Simpsons, Bart's Nightmare, Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And over here, in case you're wondering what these things are, if you're from the United States and, you know, you don't have access to the internet, which I would find impossible at this day and age, you might not know what these are, and these are Super Famicom carts. Super Nintendo, just from a different region of the world, and thanks to my good buddy Gabe from Italy, he sent me Super Star Wars and the Blues Brothers. Very stoked about those. I love those. Moving on down to the next shelf, we have N64. And Nintendo were really not good with trying to get these things labels or situated with a label somewhere where they would be easy to see, because the only real way to stack these things is on end like you see. So there's Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Donkey Kong 64, Jet Force Gemini, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, Paper Mario, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, Super Mario 64, and Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Moving along to Genesis. That case in the back is actually the original Mortal Kombat game. And then moving along, there is Aladdin, Altered Beast, The Berenstain Bears, Camping Adventure. You know, I bought that for my son because the game was like $3 or $4. It was dirt cheap. And he's 5, and he absolutely loves The Berenstain Bears. We pretty much read a Berenstain Bear book to him every night before bed. So when I saw it, I knew I had to get it. I didn't know if it was going to be some like preschool educational game, but it's actually a platformer, and it's actually not too bad of one at that. Above that is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Toe Jam and Earl, and Sonic and Knuckles. Now, I was confused about this until I actually went shopping, but Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 were supposed to be one game. But due to time constraints and whatnot, I guess they had to split it up. So Sonic 3 came out, and then Sonic and Knuckles. But what they did was they left an option for gamers to be able to play the more or less the original game as it was meant to be played. So with this edition of Sonic and Knuckles, the top opens up, and there's connector pins. You put the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 cartridge on top of this one, and then put the whole thing inside of the Genesis, and then you can play the game as it was meant to be played. So moving right along, this is my Game Boy stuff. I don't really have a lot in the way of games right now, but in the back there's Kirby's Dream Land 2, both of the Legend of Zelda Oracle games. There's the Legend of Zelda Minish Camp, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX. This is a Game Boy Advance SP. This is one of the earlier models. I put that decal on there myself, of course. And it's fantastic. The screen is in excellent condition. But later on, there was also... Let me take it out of this case here so I can show you. If you ever see a dark gray iteration of the Game Boy Advance SP, which, by the way, these play Game Boy Color, and, of course, Game Boy Advance carts. This is the Super Bright. And inside is Metroid Zero Mission. The Super Brights are awesome. Way brighter and more colorful picture. Moving on down to the last shelf. I've got some games here for a few different systems. GameCube, I have Eternal Darkness, Luigi's Mansion, Paper Mario, SpongeBob SquarePants, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, Super Mario Sunshine. For the PlayStation 2, Grand Theft Auto Trilogy. I actually just bought this at Walmart mere weeks ago. It was the only PlayStation 2 related thing that they had left, basically. Still brand new. But they were selling it dirt cheap, so I had to buy it, of course. Then there is Silent Hills 2. Moving on, for the original PlayStation, there is Crash Bandicoot 2, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 9, Grand Theft Auto, and just yesterday, at the time of recording this, Theme Park. I love this game. Think of SimCity, but you're building a theme park. There have been numerous sequels to that ever since, but this is the original and the one most dear to my heart. I remember playing that probably on Windows 3.1 or at the latest Windows 95. So here, I know the light isn't going to be doing this justice here. I've got a PS2 Fat and a PS2 Slim. The PS2 Slim, you can see, cosmetically doesn't look very appealing, but the PS2 Fat looks mint. And the PS2 Fat is what I'm using as my primary. This, of course, is, again, that whole thing. I want to have a backup. I've got a PlayStation 1 memory card here, a couple of PlayStation 2 memory cards, and yeah. So anyway, that pretty much does it for my collection here today. Oh, except for one other important thing. Moving around the other way, I have this chair, and it is so comfortable. I mean, it just looks very, very cushiony. Well, it feels very cushiony. You have to have a proper throne to play on, right? So, that's it, everyone. That's my gaming collection. My retro gaming collection, at least, anyway. You can consider the Nintendo DS retro as well, but I don't keep that here. I keep it with my 3DS stuff, so they're not in this video. Thanks for checking it out, everyone. Have a nice day, and I'll see you on streams and podcasts and future writing on the site.